Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough, and I just am tuning in for the first time in quite a long time. So, because the software hasn't been run and it had to do an update, if someone can just tell me if it's working and you can hear and see me okay, I would super appreciate it. Y'all are always awesome about helping out like that. But here's the thing. Let me turn some music on. We'll hang out and get some beats going as we usually do. I haven't done a hobby hangout in some time. And so I'm going to wait till someone comes in the stream and just confirms everything's working for me. Loud and clear. Thank you, Mr. Metaphor. Awesome. Sweet. So basically what I wanted to do in this video is there's a lot of news that came out. And I was up last night and I wanted to talk about it. But because of some scheduling stuff at work, it's been a crazy couple of weeks for me. I wasn't able to do my normal Friday live stream. I got off work a little while ago, and so we're gonna do it now. And so I got a whole bunch of terrain here for Necromunda still. I only finished half of it, and now I'm like itching to get some projects like done. And so I thought what I would do is we would let me pull up the page for Warhammer Community, and I thought we would just go through the article. We'll just sit and we'll just chat together, because that's pretty much all I want to do tonight. Let me make sure everything's working for me here. And so yeah, basically that's kind of my plan for the night. And like I said, I'm just shared screen. Don't want to do that. And I want to get rid of this. Okay. Perfect. So there we are, taking a look at the LVO From Elves to Zotes preview. Now the reason I had to turn off that camera facing me was simply because when I turn on my hobby light that shines down over this cam, it's so intense that it kind of messes with this cam, there we go. It's so intense that it kind of messes with the one focused on me, so that's all right. So yeah, this is my box of stuff that I got left. We will find a way to endure that. All right. So let me play out the pieces I want to start working on, and we'll go from there. So I have a bunch more of these little pillars. And before I get too deep into stuff, I will explain. So, yeah, the reason I went silent for my gosh, it was almost 2 weeks. I got the flu, and it was the most sick I have been as an adult. It hit me really hard. I didn't have my voice for several days, just a lot of coughing. I mentioned it on a post that I did, but my throat got so bad that I had to take pain medication so I could actually swallow water so I wouldn't dehydrate. That kind of fun. But I'm back at it. You will hear me clear my throat every once in a while. I apologize for that. And if I have to cough, I will move away from the mic, obviously, because I'm not a jerk. Get all these little lids. I think I got them all. I think we're good. Okay. There is so much stuff in this box. I'm just going to, before I hop into the article and bring that up, I will look at the chat here. Are you on Twitch or just YouTube? Just YouTube right now, though. I will go back to Twitch. Basically, the streaming software that I had that split the stream into both was kind of acting up, and I needed to make sure at least YouTube worked where everybody else is. So, yeah, let's see. Dude's got an AOS, been spamming your lore videos. Aw, thank you. Thank you so much. I hope they help you and they find some value to you. Constructing part of the 2K table. 2K table. I'm not sure what you mean by 2K, but it is for Necromunda. It's the Dark Uprising set and Apathy Kitten. Yeah, I'm feeling much better now. So let's go. Let me just make sure that's streaming the right thing. It is. So here we are. Las Vegas Open reveals. This is what came out yesterday. I'm not going to play the videos because I don't want to, frankly, have the annoying sounds. There were a few things, a lot of stuff for 40K that were really cool. And I don't normally talk about the 40K stuff. Usually I kind of run through it really quickly. However, I was looking at these models. This is the new Adeptus Mechanicus Infantry. And here's the thing is I don't know how big they are because the Skitarii models are fairly small. Like in terms, they're just like human sized. But one thing I was looking at these, I was like, you know what I would love? I would love a Cities of Sigmar army where, if you don't know, Duncan did a video a long time ago and he used the rifles from these guys, that kind of like futuristic but still somehow a flintlock looking rifle, and he put them on Cities of Sigmar, the riflemen. And I would love to see whatever the heavy cavalry are that come in units of 3, like they don't have Griff riders, but you know what I mean, like the I'm sure someone in the chat, you can correct me, but what's the unit of knights that come in 3 and they're like Griffin type things? I cannot think of the name of them. Never see them. But I would love to see those turned into those units, because then you get all the guns and that kind of stuff. I think that would be really cool. It's the thing is, I have a vision for actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Demigriff Knights. Thank you. I'm gonna split my screen here just a smidge so I can see the chat whilst we talk. I think that would be really nice. There we go. We'll just stretch this out. Boom, look at that. We got the chat on the right. Big iron. That's exactly right. This guy is rocking the big iron. I like it. That's a good call. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's a really cool... Check out Ricky Smith. He's already on it. Is Ricky Smith a YouTube channel name? Instagram? Who's Ricky Smith? Okay, so... here we go. We'll scroll down a little bit. They got these cool flying guys, which I love the look of. Mechanicus to me is one of those things like so I have some Chaos Space Marines right now, and Mechanicus is the only good guy faction in 40k that appeals to me because of how outrageous they are, and they can be like lore-wise. You know what I mean? They just everything about them screams being weird, and I just like that so much more than the I don't know. He's on the Facebook groups. Most had the Warhammer community article about Army of Midnight. Okay, I'll check that out. Talked about the next Psychic Awakening book. I don't know anything about the Psychic Awakening books. I hear pretty good things. So, this is clearly a allusion to the new Gazgul model coming. Is Gazgul Thraka? Yeah, whatever his name is, big guy. And then we move into the Age of Sigmar stuff. And so this is the stuff that I'm frankly most interested in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the articles. And then we're just going to stop and we're just going to chat, and that's when I'm going to do all my painting. So let me get some paints here real quick. And I'll get my palette all set up. Lots of cool stuff was revealed. 2 articles, well, 2 big pieces of news for sure. And that's going to be the Lumineth Realm-lords, up there they are, and the Seraphon, the new Seraphon book. So let me just dump a bunch of paint on my palette here. All right, so let's read this sucker. The Lumineth Realm-lords, the ultimate expression of what to be an elf. That's an interesting way to put that. Take even the standard infantry of the army, the Venari Alarian Wardens. These harken back to the High Elf Spearmen that made up classic Warhammer armies, and they are packed with rich detail never previously thought possible. And I think that has more to do with the fact that there were so many limitations when it came to their ability to create cool-looking models back in the day. There's also more than mere soldiers. Runes, jewels, little talismans help place these warriors as part of fully realized elven culture. All right. Elves have eons-long tradition of formidable cavalry. After years of seeing elves riding from drakes to eels, I like that. The Lumineth Realm-lords have gone full circle and gone back to horses, which is this... Have they released... I guess the Varangard. I was trying to think if they released any actual just straight-up horse models. I guess... Yeah, I guess the Varangard. I was trying to think. I don't know. Everything's been riding weird stuff lately. So let's take a look at these. I want to... I'm having a little bit of trouble trying to paint and chat at the same time. That's all right. Okay, these guys look fantastic. I'm really curious to see how the kits go together, because if you look, like, in a very cool way, the spears lock into the shield, which is perfect, because then you would throw the shield up and then push the spear through that little gap, and it would just make this like perfect thrust every single time. That's really cool. I'm wondering how the arm and spear like fixture is set up, because what I'd hate to see is a bunch of dumpy looking spearmen where like this doesn't lock in quite right and something's not quite keyed in. So that would be a shame, but again, no evidence that that's what's gonna happen. Let's see. Then we have our horse boys. We'll get to the next thing here in a bit. I was actually going to put down the paintbrush and honestly just focus on the news, and then we'll go back to painting here in a bit. We'll just chat about it all. So, horse boys. These guys also look awesome. They definitely, I feel like these are more old school high elf than the spearmen. I don't know why I feel that way, but I just do. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing is I'm like, I really like these models, but I can't tell you exactly what it is about them that I like. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they don't, normally with Age of Sigmar stuff, I like the more outlandish, the more crazy stuff. And these don't have that. You know, they're very traditional fantasy and that kind of thing, but I just love them. They look very clean, very crisp, very high elfy, so to speak. Let's see. My favorite segue. So, horse boys. I'm good with the segue. So, Teclis isn't the only name you might recognize amongst the new range. The Light of Eltharion sees one of the most legendary heroes of this ancient race return with a truly stunning new miniature. Look closer at the armor's hollow. So, let's... Yep. Let's see. So, yeah. I do like this, right? I mean, it would work if he was just invisible too, but it is truly hollow. Dill Pickle says he's got very clear skin. You know, it's maybe he's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. We don't know. So I dig that. I don't honestly. So like, Cinderfall Gaming, if you know, or if you can explain to me who Eltharion really is, because like I started with high elves in fantasy battles, but like I've said a few times, I started fantasy battles about 5 months before the game closed down for AOS, and so my problem was that like I got through the Sundering series and I don't recognize that name, but honestly the main players in the Sundering series were, you know, Malekith and Teclis, Tyrion, and Marathi, those kinds of things. So, yeah, I don't know. Back out of that. So someone has a good brief description. Now we come to the big centerpiece model of these guys, and I have mixed feelings about this model. I love Teclis. He looks awesome. And I love the monster. He looks awesome. But until we see a 360, I just don't understand how... Why are they in this pose? When I look at this pose, there's a few things I think of. I think of the scene in Dirty Dancing when Patrick Swayze holds up What's-Her-Bucket at the end of the movie, because that's exactly the same pose that Teclis is in. I also think of Titanic when Jack and Rose are on the front of the ship and she stretches her arms out. And those are just, sorry. For some reason YouTube caught that comment thinking it was bad. So, I don't know. There's a 360 in the video. Okay, let's check that out. No, wait, it was here somewhere, wasn't it? Wasn't there a video? Ah! Let's see. It just... Yeah, I don't know. Give me 1 second. And we know that there's going to be more elite units that are probably out there, just like there were for Daughters of Cain. Okay. Why? Why is he held on by that? There's just going to be 1,000 broken Tyrion Teclis models at every event as we try to transport these things. Why can't he just ride it? I don't get it. Like, I like it. It is from a technical perspective an achievement in model making. But it's just like, it boggles the mind. It's just like, can't he just sit on it? At least, and even Alariel, she's like standing on it, you know? So I don't know how I feel about this. Like I said, I love the creature. I love the Teclis sculpt. I think they're both individually cool. I don't get, I don't know. Thank you for pointing out though that there's a 360 though. I do appreciate it. But yeah, he's just held on. The cape comes down and clips to the wing. So I don't know. But people are going to do some really cool stuff with this monster. I can already tell. So that's my thoughts. Honestly, those are all the models they showed for the not high elves, right? The Lumineth Realm-lords, is that what they are? Lumineth. Okay. My thoughts on the faction. Honestly, I love every model except for the big Centerpiece model. The Teclis one is the only one that I'm like, I just don't know how I feel about it. So it be what it be. It's one of those things that, like, am I interested enough in the army to buy into it? Well, it depends on how elite it is. I tend to be leaning towards more elite stuff lately, just because painting large hordes gets daunting. But if you don't like the big centerpiece of your army, that's a bummer. I don't know. So then we're going to move into the next big thing, and the thing that I frankly think is far more interesting and important. I'm not going to say that the pointy elves thing is not. I just, I don't have the nostalgia factor. Like when GW was like, we've got pointy elves, and the whole nerddom kingdom was just like, what? I just didn't. I can't track. I wasn't there for it. But Seraphon, I was there for when they launched that book. And also struggled to do a week's worth of lore for them because they didn't write them that well. It was back when AOS first started. Blair Jameson says Seraphon is the best faction, and dude, I hope so. I want them to have some real time in the sun. First of all, look at the book. That is a stunning piece of artwork. I really do hope they add a lot more original artwork to this. They've been doing pretty well as far as adding new pictures and that kind of stuff. One thing to note, where is it at? There was a blurb that I wanted to read. In the meantime, elves aren't the only one getting a new battle tome. The Seraphon are getting a new battle tome and this awesome thing. And so we'll open this and we'll zoom on in. And they are getting what is basically just a kick-ass looking monolith. And here's this just tugs at my heartstrings. And I have to keep telling myself I shouldn't play Seraphon. There have been like multiple times in my time in AOS where I've been like, I should play Seraphon. The thing is like, this is super appealing to me because if you don't know, I do dabble in 40k here and there. The only model in 40k that I like for the Necron army is the monolith. And I think it is the coolest possible model, but I don't like anything else in that range. So the idea of having a monolith, I don't know why, it just appeals to me. So yeah, I don't know. This is incredible. I really do like it. I can see converters doing really cool things with this. And what's cool about it is it kind of matches I feel like the general look from something like, say, the Geminids of Olkish, that kind of thing, where it's like a central orb and then a bunch of arcing light coming off. I like that they kept a very similar aesthetic with how that works. Looks like we're keeping the same salon. That's fine. I like this model. I know it's not everybody's favorite. Still got the same skinks. Still got Dino Boy. And that's all fine. Honestly. Like, those models weren't the ones that were really holding the faction back. It's more the Saurus that need a little update. But yeah. I'm excited for that. That's a cool thing. Now, it says here, from the earliest days of the Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Seraphon have been massively popular as a faction. They're even one of the first to get a new battle tome, which, it's funny that they make that sound so exciting. It's like the fact that they were the first to get a new battle tome is what kind of hindered their popularity because everyone evolved past them. Now you're able to field them with all the nifty allegiance abilities, sub-faction rules, and more that you've come to expect from a modern Warhammer Age of Sigmar army. All of that is super exciting. Sub-factions, I love it. I want there to be sub-factions that focus on Sora, Skinks, and Slan. And this is the part that I was trying to find. Very excited for this. The new battle tome fully explores the origins and nature of the Seraphon in the mortal realms. That's what we've needed for like 4 years now. You'll have the chance to find out how the original refugees from the world that was became the celestial charged Starborn, and how the Seraphon are changing into the Coalesced, whatever that means. And so my thoughts, and this is just me, again, I don't have any early information. People give me way too much credit. I think that they're going to transition the Seraphon from being like pure star stuff to a more solidified, if they're around long enough, they can resume pure physical form. And that's what I'm thinking the Coalesced is. That's my hip shot, if you will. And that sounds very exciting because that way you could have your army be whatever you want it to be. You can be demons of light, or you can be traditional lizard men who happen to exist in the realms, because honestly they make sense there too. So yeah. Anyway, so I'm excited about the Seraphon thing. It is certainly the book that I personally am most excited for. And, you know, like, as cool as the elves up here are, they don't... I feel like... I don't know how to word this. I feel like the lack of generic pointy-eared elves, right, the generic elf, hasn't been stressed as much as the fact that people love lizard men as an army in Seraphon. They just wanted them to be more prevalent. So yeah. Player James, look at my note above. Type it again. The chat moves pretty fast. Brothers say if you want me to see something, you got to @ me or type in all caps 2+ stuff or something like that so I can see it. Let's see. Warhammer Underworlds. So now we're moving to something that is Age of Sigmar adjacent. And so I'm excited about that. Like I said, I'm not going to play the video. Now, as many of you know, I do have a Nurgle army, which is kind of the next thing that we'll be working on. And I think this is terrific. So it is a gang of 3 models. And we have our first... I don't know, Nurglette, the first female Nurgle. One of the things, so the idea of Nurgle wizards has been super exciting for me because if you've ever played the game, what was the game? I think it was Vermintide, where one of the bosses for the end of a level is like a giant, like super fat Nurgle wizard guy who like teleports and just like barfs up all kinds of green nastiness. Blair, I saw your comment this time. I'm gonna hover over it so I don't lose your spot. So let me just finish this thought real quick. So anyway, I love the idea of like Nurgle wizards, but the Nurgle sorcerer model doesn't meet that description whatsoever. And so this looks far more like it. So I'm very excited for it. I think it's very cool looking. She looks rad. If nothing else, I'll probably grab 2 of these sets, if I'm honest, because if nothing else, I want the alternate sculpts, because if you have a whole heckin' ton of Blight Kings, like I have I think 25 total, even though you can build them in different ways, they can be kind of samey. And the fact that he's hunched forward with a leg up and the other guy has a hook for a hand, which just works perfectly for my theme of the pirate thing, I think they're perfect. So I think it's going to be awesome. They're going to fit into my army flawlessly. And I don't. The only thing I don't like is I don't really like this little guy in the front. This little monster thing. I actually like its body, but it has like a weird person's devil head, and it's just like it just looks too big for the body. If it was shrunk down a little bit more, I'd be like, interesting. So I promised I would get back to Blair. So in Tome of Champions, they talk about traits about Seraphon getting more ferocious. Also, they find Old God's technology, also refer to Seraphon as he coalesced in this article. Oh, I will double check that. I did not see that one. Omniphage, you mean you didn't trade them away yet? Oh, my Nurgle? No. Actually, for my Nurgle, my master plan worked perfectly in that I have invested so much time in those stupid frickin' bases that you will take that army off of me from my cold dead hands. I can't get rid of them. I hated making those bases. So, nope, they're with me for life. So here we are. The last, I don't know if it's the last thing, but the next thing is talking about a Zote model for Blackstone Fortress. I don't have anything to say about it. I know the Zotes were a thing way back in the day. The only thing I want to say about it is that I'm really happy that they have created a way for them to introduce fan favorites and one-off things. Blair Jameson, I'm not going to watch the video because the audio gets all messed up when I play and then try to live stream at the same time. But I did watch it right before I started, and it is quite funny. So if you haven't seen it, go watch this. It is really good. Let's see here. Cinderfall Gaming. Dill Pickle typed F. Are we still streaming? Yeah, looks like we are. Yes, and they tongue-in-cheek kind of alluded to the idea of Sons of Behemat, which is the giant faction, which is coming out, which we can chat about since there's no pictures for it. I'll do that when I switch to the painting cam. I just want to finish up all the news here. What is this? Some Horus Heresy thing and the new round of Warhammer Heroes. Congratulations to all of these. I actually don't think I recognize many of these names. I believe Alex Gonzalez is one of the hosts of the show Garage Hammer and organizes the events at Adepticon. So that's awesome. But I don't know many of these folks. But congratulations if you watch. You're awesome. And then they had an announcement for this Angels of Death thing. Was kind of watching the trailer, and I don't know what it's supposed to be in terms of like a show or something like that, but interesting stuff nonetheless. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hover over an AOS focused picture. Sorry for scrolling so fast if it makes you sick. Boom. And let me get everything set up over here so we can do a paint hangout. We're going to chat about wild theories on the Seraphon, the it's not Luminarchs, what is it? Lumineth, because it's like Sylvaneth. Yes, Lumineth, okay. So we'll chat about Lumineth theories and then talk about what we want out of the Sons of Behemat. So let me just pull up my chat on my phone so I can actually see while I'm at my painting side over here. Okay, let's structure this. Blair says leak cards from shipping manifest. Yeah, I saw that. I don't do much with rumors and that kind of stuff. For me, picks or it didn't happen, and those picks have to be of the actual models. Everything else is like, I don't care. Mainly because trying to keep up with rumors stresses me out. Not because I think there's anything wrong with sharing information. Alright. Let's go here. Perfect. So let me get myself a little organized here. And like I said, let's kick it off with stuff we know, and then we'll move gradually into more theory crafting, right? Or not theory crafting, but just making stuff up. Because that's just fun sometimes. Speculate wildly. Stuff we know. So, Seraphon. I want to start there. Let's start talking to Seraphon, because we got some Seraphon fans in the chat. I knew that. I saw that when we broached that topic. So we don't know anything other than the terrain piece, which I'm totally cool with. Come on. Here we go. Didn't wanna lock in. I'm just getting things organized for myself. Am I double posting on your screen? Yes. I'm not sure why. For some reason, I am... Well, I'm watching it on my phone as well, because that's easier to see at this angle. And it's not double posting there, so it has something to do with YouTube, not necessarily you. So yeah, we'll start with Seraphon, okay? Things we want. For me personally, I also, just as TG Disciple, it was actually going to be my first thing that I said was, I want 2 Wound Saurus. The reason is that they don't have anything that fills a elite infantry spot. I mean, they have the Saurus Warriors, I know that. But I do think that there's room to have a basic bro that's 2 wounds, that isn't, doesn't have access to like the 2-up mega save or whatever, that kind of janky stuff that they can get to. What else do I want? I want that. I don't know how I feel about skinks. Because, like, first of all, actually, take it back. I love the models. Love the skink models. They've been a classic and very iconic. And I think that they represent what they're trying to convey very, very well. The thing that I don't always know how I feel about when it comes to skinks, I'm really struggling to find a good brush for this. I don't want to be that sloppy. The thing that I struggle with when it comes to skinks is more to do with the fact that they're so cheap that they're almost always the obvious option. And I hate when like that light infantry that's just the cheapest thing is always just the obvious option. So whether that means I think the best case scenario is that Saurus become really good and that people want to take them, instead of, if not over skinks, or that skinks are tuned down in such a way that, maybe they lose the fallback thing and are replaced with something that is equally thematic, but, it doesn't make them such an obvious, well, of course, why would I take anything else? Because I feel like that's the way it is now, for the most part. So that would be my thing. And that's kind of how I felt when the Corn book was coming out, when it came to the Blood Secrator, the latest Corn book. I was like, I'm tired of everything being balanced around this one unit. And it still is an incredibly important part of that army, but the reeling it back with the Battle Shock stuff, I think, helped quite a bit. So they changed it around a little bit. I think it was a good change. Nobody's complaining about Blades of Corn sweeping through the top tables yet. Although it does seem like an incredibly fun army. So I think revisiting skinks and how they function would be super beneficial to that army. What's another big one? I don't want Slann to be mandatory. Like, I like right now that they can do the teleport thing without necessarily needing a Slann to do it. And part of that, I don't want to talk too much about the Slann, because part of that is I want them to write the lore in such a way and redo the lore in such a way that the Slann is super important part of the army, but he doesn't do everything, because they kind of, they're written as like godlike in the books right now, so it's like, either reel that in or make the skinks and the Saurus far more autonomous. Blitzkrieg, holy crap, it's Doug. Yep, sorry, I'm back, I'm alive. Got over my uber cold. And then I basically was just looking around my hobby room and I was like, I have way too many projects. I need to finish something, and so we are going to finish the Necromunda terrain, and then we're going to finish the Maggotkin. Not obviously tonight, obviously, but that is the plan. I want to get some stuff done. before we go into our next chat about something with the new armies coming out, I do want to say I did pick up a new army, got a Nighthaunt army, which I'll have a video that kind of, like one of my hobby haul videos that kind of explains it, but basically was helping a local guy out. He was in a rough place financially, and he just had his second kid, and he lost his job, and so I was like, oh yeah, he was just selling stuff, and somebody was super kind and paid a more than fair price on some models when I lost my job 2 years ago, and it was just kind of a pay it forward moment. Never intended to be a Nighthaunt player, but it's like, well, I bought it, and I never anticipated it, but I paid more for it than I have paid for any used models, and so now I'm like, I guess I'm a Nighthaunt player. I am financially, painfully invested. We're in. Omniphage going to try and get your wife interested again. Yep, that's actually kind of the idea, because he had Lady Ollander all painted up, and that was like the only model that she's ever really had shown an interest in. And so, you know, and it's one of those things, like, if it was, I can't think of many other armies that would have appealed to me, but the fact that my wife had an interest in that one specifically, I was like, okay, well, you know, I can at least convince myself that this is not a super selfish purchase. I can justify it in my own head, and really at the end of the day, that's all we need to do, you know? It's not like that's ever taken the world down a super dark path that ended in the Nuremberg trial or something like that, you know? Justifying stuff to ourselves in our heads. All right, so chatting about, let me finish this off. Does anyone have any final thoughts they want to add on to talking about Seraphon? Now, like I said, they did mention there's going to be sub-factions. Like I said, I want them to be focused. I want there to be at least one focused on Saurus, Skinks, and one that's like Uberslan, right? That just like leans heavily into having these like godlike creatures in the battlefield. I'm curious if they will keep the teleport thing. In fact, I would love it as an opportunity to just like stop and redesign the entire darn thing, right? I mean, they did it with certainly did it with Dispossessed. that GHB allegiance ability, like with the whole choosing your runes every turn thing, that made it into absolutely no part of the Cities of Sigmar book. So I don't know if they're gonna focus on that same thing. It's a good opportunity to just basically start fresh, and by doing so, you will get people that complain. But I think ultimately that army is so far behind the curve when it comes to just the way that I'm talking about, like the way the actual war scrolls are written and the battalions work, that kind of stuff. That you know, drastic changes I think would ultimately be a good thing. Obviously, people can disagree with that. That's fine. Want a faction focused on the big beasties? Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. But yeah, they have tons of big old monsters. That'd be a great idea. If not an entire like sub faction. Well, because it's funny because they can do a few things. So they could have something like they did with what are they called? Despoilers from Slaves to Darkness, where, you know, it in the lore, right? It talks about them being focused on big monsters and like that. And then the rules, you know, there are things that certainly benefit big monsters, but not in a way where it's like if you have the monster keyword, you get 10 extra attacks kind of thing. It's just like they're the ones that have the, you know, you can turn a terrain piece into a big fireball that no one can see through kind of thing. And so it's like, well, that's an inadvertent buff that's good for everybody, but also just it's really especially good if you have monsters and you don't want them to all get shot off the field turn one. So I don't know. I'd love that kind of stuff where it's like, this is the one I did the tutorial on. So I was like, why is there only one side painted? That kind of stuff where it's like, you know, it doesn't have to be monsters necessarily specific, but buff the army in an interesting way, and then have it focus on monsters lore wise, and let them make the most of a specific battalion. I think would be a cool kind of design idea. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Jack says 2-1 at LVO, and he made a guy cry, from what I understand. Yeah, if you didn't know, breaking news. Jack is the guy that everyone complains about on the internet at tournaments. Just a win at all cost kind of guy. Heard he made a grown man weep at one point. That was super intense. I've already gotten a list of emails and complaints about why my channel is affiliated with theirs. Really rough stuff, guys. Stay safe out there. Stay safe from Jack. Alright, get some more. Cinderfall says, good job, Jack. Make them all cry nerd tears. Exactly. No, Jack's a fantastic opponent at events. When we're just hanging around his house, he's the worst. Just straight up. He's just... I do like talking about him when he's not here in person to defend himself in real time, but he's like watching, just knowing that like my zingers are like actually happened 45 seconds ago and he can't like tag me back real quick. Feels good. Let's see. Jack, drink some water, get some sleep. Love you, bye. So anyway, yeah, LVO is going pretty good from what I understand. That's exciting. Is he, or does he bully people into giving good sportsmanship scores? Exactly. He drops the "Do you know who I am?" card. You're gonna give me a 1. You're gonna give me a 1 score. Do you know who I am? I'll make sure you never play Age of Sigmar in this town again. This town being Las Vegas. Now, see, so I was accused once of being so somebody mistook me. I shouldn't say accused. I was never accused of anything, but someone mistook me for being a very unfriendly gamer once, and it's because like it was that tournament where I took Slaves to Darkness. Oh no, it was my Skaven, and I brought 2 units of Chaos Warriors, and someone was like, you know, it really wasn't fun playing against you because like you just seemed so intense, and so I had to explain. I was like, no, like I was just trying. I was deep in thought. Like I really do. I get quiet. I get deep in thought. And then the second I realize, I'm probably not going to win this, my mood immediately lightens up and I just, you know, start laughing, having fun. And that's exactly what happened. I was just like, you know, I wasn't rude or curt or anything like that. I was just kind of in my own little world trying to figure out, like, it was my first time running Skaven. So I was like, oh, what do these models even do? trying to come up with a plan on the fly because I think for that event I didn't realize I was going until the night before. I thought I was busy and then something cleared up. It was all good. By the end of the day we were good friends. Let's see. Do you have resting unfriendly face? I don't think I do, but no one ever does, I suppose. No, it was mainly because I was looking down at the table and just being very quiet. I think the person was just a little sensitive to the mood. And you know what, honestly, part of it was, now that I think about it, the table next to us, one of the guys there was, a little bit to drink during the lunch break and was getting a little, not aggressive physically, but just complaining a lot. And so I wonder if my opponent kind of like projected that guy's negativity onto me as I was standing there just kind of in deep thought. That's kind of what I think happened. I'm rather quiet when I play. Yeah. for, you know, what's funny is for me, when I play full games of Age of Sigmar, I tend to be more quiet because I'm deep in thought. There's a lot more going on. But when I play skirmish games, like when I'm playing Necromunda or Warcry, or what are some other skirmish games? Even Kill Team, I'm laughing. I'm having fun, making jokes. Like, I don't know why, for some reason, skirmish games just... Maybe because there's just, like, when I commit to an action in full AOS, like, you know, if you're moving 30 or, you know, 30 models in a unit, that's a commitment of time. So you got to really think, do you want to do that? Where do you want them to go? That kind of thing. Whereas I feel like with skirmish games, I just don't care. I just like throw this one person forward. My one girl, Eshin girl rocking the gas canister gun, just rushes forward and gets blown up, and I just laugh. Charles says, greetings, Doug. Welcome from Quebec City. Nice. Well, a huge thank you. Blair says he talks too much. Blair, where in Minnesota are you located at? I have family in Iowa, and there's a chance I'll be moving back to the Midwest at some point. Really like your channel. Oh, thank you so much. So anyway, I'm sorry, I got distracted with talk of tournament stuff with Jack. Let's go back to our chat about the new stuff that's coming out. So we talked Seraphon a little bit. We want to see the sub-factions really represent all the different ways to play the army. And I'm really excited for the lore. I'm going to do a deep dive on that. Absolutely. So let's talk about our new elves that we got coming out. So I don't think, I mean, obviously that's not an entire faction, right? It's two, 4 units, 2 heroes and 2 basic units. I assume the cavalry guys will be battle line if you know you go all in on pointy elves. I think the spear guys will just be battle line period, because that's typically what spear guys exist in armies for, just cannon fodder. What else? The Hollow Man that is Eltharion. I would bet that he is focused on being a melee monster, much like Gotrek, whereas Teclis is not going to be that strong in melee, but will in fact be a very good force multiplier. I'm just stream of consciousness telling you what I think. I have no insider information. I can't stress that enough. I don't know anything. What else? I'm gonna say mediocre stat line, and so people are gonna complain when they first see the War Scrolls go live, but that doesn't account for the fact that it's going to be a faction that focuses on synergy and buffs, very finesse stuff. So what you're going to see online, it's kind of like looking at, I don't know, what's another good example? Slanesh stuff if you don't have the allegiance abilities and artifacts and all that, right? Where you're just like, I don't get how this army can be good. It's like, well, because you're not factoring all the stuff that makes it good, kind of thing. That's what I think is going to happen. Let's see. Nate Miniature says, hey mate, first time here. What are you working on? This is the terrain from Dark Uprising, the Necromunda set. I want to do Necromunda coverage on the channel. In fact, I have my first Necromunda video coming out this coming week. Or next week, I should say. And so this is part of that. I was hoping to already be doing some of the filming for my Warcry stuff, but that got pushed back because of super sickness and then the holidays, and now work stuff's crazy because we have a bunch of... So, I work at a company where almost a full half of our employees are of Chinese descent, and so Chinese New Year's a big deal for them. And so they took time off to go be with family for that and that kind of thing. So Yeah. It's just been a little hectic. And for these, I'm not actually doing any of the undersides for these terrain. I'm cheating a little bit. Because honestly, are you really going to see it? Nah. But I'm excited to even just use them for kill team. My goodness. So, man, did you see the meat grinder Necromunda thing last month in War Dwarf? I think I did. I think I know what you're talking about. The meat grinder thing. Like the terrain thing that they had where it's like a big vat that like people are being ground up in. Is that what you're talking about? I saw something like that online somewhere. Blades Craig, you see the Sons of Behemat leak. I saw someone had like a shipping manifest or something like that. I don't, like I said, I don't do much with the rumor engine and or leaks. Part of it is just GW has improved so much about communication that I'm at the point now where it's like, you know what? I want to be pleasantly surprised. I got an NDA I don't feel like ruining anything with. I want to be pleasantly surprised, and when they'll show it to me, it's going to be awesome. Which is a far cry from where they were a few years ago, where it's like, they don't communicate anything. I just want to know what's going on. I will say, though, because I don't really have any more thoughts on the elves, simply because we don't know anything. So we'll move into the Sons of Behemat. If you don't know, Sons of Behemat was originally it was I guess it was technically a battalion, or at least technically a sub-faction, is that what it was? During the Realmgate Wars series, the opening campaign of AOS, where it was, I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it was a god beast named Behemat, and these collection of giants were devoted to him. Yeah, because it was Behemat, the god beast they took out or whatever. So yeah, that's awesome. So anyway, so it's this idea of an army of Gargants, and you know, my initial thought when I hear that is like the AOS version of Night Titans, of just like, here's your army, you got 8 models, you got weird rules, and you're gonna have a great time. That's what I hear when I hear that. I'm just like, yes. That makes me excited. So yeah, I would love that. I mean, I don't know why this lately in my life. I don't know if it's just a matter of like I'm getting tired of storing models or transporting them or what. Every army that I want to do, it's just like I look at a faction like, what's the most elite version of this? How can I have the coolest models but the fewest of them? And I don't know what that is. Like I'm not getting tired of painting or building I'm tired of building, but I don't know what it is. I just don't want to have a bunch of models anymore. Kind of wish the Titan equivalent was an army of dragons. That'd be kind of cool too. Yeah. I guess we do have sentient, I guess the dragons in AOS, they are smart. I have the opposite problem where I tend to be attracted to large hordes. See, that's the thing, is I used to be all about horde armies. Like, I used to be like, oh yeah, I want orcs, and I want my bone splitters, and I want flesh eater courts, but I want to focus on, crypt ghouls. Oh, and I definitely want chaos marauder hordes and that kind of. And I just I think I just burnt myself out because my aesthetic love for horde armies really clashes with whatever brokenness that is in me as a person that makes me keep selling and trading armies. Where it's like, if I had stuck with my, we'll pick one of my horde armies, right? If I had stuck with, I used to have undead, right? I would have an immense undead collection at this point. But, my anti-drug is trading models apparently, so that's where I'm at. I have literally every army. I'm a hobby whore. I couldn't. Like, honestly, I have 2 AOS armies. I have stuff for Warcry and Necromunda. I do have a War Machine and Hordes army, Protector of Manoth, because I got a crazy deal on some of those things. Like some guy, I literally bought models for 10% of retail. And I'm slowly picking up a few Infinity things. And I'm like, those are mostly skirmish games. And I'm just like, I have no room. Part of it is, when I say skirmish game, it sounds small, but when you factor in, like, I have all the terrain, that's where it gets you. You have a full storm host you're painting up. When you say a full storm host, are you talking like all the battalions in the book? Like you can like reasonably field an entire storm host, kind of like how some Space Marine players can do a full chapter or whatever? Like how real are we talking? How many salaries have you supported at Games Workshop? That's exactly what I mean. Oh, man. Well, blessings upon you, my friend. My thing is I don't like clutter. I get very overwhelmed easily when it comes to like stuff in my way. And so, we've always lived in apartments as long as Jess and I have been married. And so it's just the minute I feel like claustrophobic, I'm like, I got to sell stuff. Like, I just can't even. And I'm actually kind of at that point now. The problem is the stuff that I have, I want all of it. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to pry my Maggotkin from my cold dead hands. And then I bought these Night Haunt dudes that are incredibly well painted. And that, they're pretty nice because they came with a battle foam box with like the custom cut trays and everything like that for Night Haunt, and so they actually fit in there in that perfect size box. So that one's not really much of a stressor, but all the terrain and that kind of stuff, that gets to be a bit much. TG Disciple question: did you sell your Stormcast? Oh yeah, they're long gone. I kept some of the stuff for use in Warcry, but yeah, I sold them off. Honestly, I sold them off because I just wasn't really having a great time with them. I found that I like wacky stuff. Anyone who knows me knows that I like to be a bit of a special snowflake, if you will. And when the opportunity came up, like, I want to do Maggotkin and I want to invest really heavily into making super custom bases because there's way fewer models for the Maggotkin. I was like, man, we'll make some super custom bases, and you know what I'm going to do? Special snowflake that I am, I'm going to run a whole heckin' ton of Puskoil Blight Lords. And so one day I will earn my spot on Warhammer Weekly talking about Maggotkin. Whenever they do Maggotkin Revisited Part Do Electric Boogaloo, right? Because they literally just like 2 weeks ago did Nurgle Revisited. Whenever they come back around, they're going to be like, Doug, You won first place at Adepticon, Nova, and LVO with nothing but Puscoil Blightlords. Tell us your secret. And I'll be like, no. It's my secret. I don't know if I have an unrealistic expectation, but that's how it plays out in my head. I feel like we have a similar mindset. Oh yeah, I just like the weird stuff, you know. I mean, especially because I remember that because it was during Christmas when they showed the preview for Nurgle, and then in January it came out that year. I think it was like 2-3 years ago now. Like during the preview, the most hyped model I thought looked amazing was the Puscoil Blightlords, and then you just never saw them. I'm just like, no, man. Let's see. When Gloomspite came out, I was like, trolls. Yeah, honestly, that's one of those armies that that pulled people out of the woodwork. Like folks who, you know, have been kind of like on the fence. You know, there's just these armies sometimes that GW releases that pull people back in that didn't know they wanted to be pulled back in. For example, there were a whole lot of disgruntled people when AOS launched, obviously for obvious reasons. But when Ironjawz dropped the first time, there were many people in 40K who were like, what's going on over there? Right? You know what I mean? Like there's something so intrinsically interesting about that faction that it made people who had no interest in AOS be like, what's this all about? What you guys doing over here? And so I think Gloomspite was definitely one of those for many people who were just like, these guys sound fun AF. Question, better facelift? Gloomspite or Slaves to Darkness? I don't know what you mean by better facelift. When I think facelift, I think like 2nd edition Battle Tome. If you're asking like who walked away better between the two of them, I'd probably say Slaves to Darkness. Can you explain your question of better facelift? I don't think I've never been asked. I've never had a question posed to me like that before. If you mean like who needs it more or who had it best. Follow up, like what Night Goblins looked like versus what slaves. Oh, based purely on looks. Oh, I mean, I think Slaves of Darkness wins. I mean, come on, those new Slaves of Darkness models are. Then again, I guess the Grots did get the Squig Riders, huh? That is a tougher one than I thought initially. Hold on, I'm processing. I still, you know, the thing is that Slaves to Darkness included all this amazing new Warcry stuff that I still lean towards that. I love the new like Thaumaturge dude, Ogroid guy, not Thaumaturge, that's the Zinch one, but the Myrmidon, that's his name. I will say in terms of like who got more love model-wise, it was, I mean, without a doubt, it was definitely Gloomspite. They got just far more kits. Because I think, didn't Slaves of Darkness just get the Chaos Warriors, the Knights, and that new hero, bro? I guess, yeah, if you can include the Warcry stuff, that's quite a bit as well. And I say just, I mean, those are all incredible models. Alright, almost. Globapalooza Trump cell. Oh yeah, I forgot about the Globapalooza. Yeah, you know, I don't so much love those models. They're cool. Some of them are more cool than others, I will say. But I think that is a design idea in terms of like how to make a unit like war scroll wise that I wish they did more. I'm just like, here's a box of a bunch of like sub heroes, right? Like they're not even like true heroes. They're just like these like sub heroes, and I want that to be a more used mechanic. You know, I'd love to see that kind of thing applied across different armies, because there are just some heroes that you're like, how is this guy a hero? You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm trying to think of another example. I think of stuff like the Dark Oath War Queen or the Chieftain, where it's like, ultimately it's clearly like, say that the people who are like super on the path of glory, that's your Lord of Chaos and all those guys, and there's a lot of different models for those, like mounts and stuff like that. But I want there to be this like secondary class of units that, you can give them special rules, kind of like how the Gobblepalooza has, to make them function sort of like a hero, in terms of they have their own lookout sir type thing, that kind of junk. But they do operate on a different level and in a different way. I think would be a really cool thing to dive into a bit more. And for some reason, they just never revisited that concept. And I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. Let's see. Now we can grab... Like how we used to have lords and heroes. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, because I mean, that's the thing, is the second you give something... Like, there are just a few keywords in the game that if a unit has it or doesn't, drastically changes things. Like, if they have the hero keyword, that means something. Behemoth is another one, because that affects, like, terrain, how they can get cover and that kind of stuff. Hero, because in some scenarios you want heroes. You can give them artifacts, that kind of thing. And so I think playing around and being more sensitive to those keywords, or adding more keywords, right? Have hero be one and just have lord be another, and like lords do X, heroes do Y. So I think those could be cool different levers to pull when it comes to design that we just haven't seen a whole lot of. But like elite characters in 40k. Yeah, pretty much. Those are all great examples. Yeah, elite characters in 40k. I forgot about that because that was like the what is he? The crazy doctor in Orcs is a great example of that. Monster or ethereal are arguably the biggest keywords. So yeah, ethereal is a rule though. Like, it's not like a keyword on the bottom of a war scroll that has a universal... I mean, it's universal in the sense that they just copy and paste the same definition of ethereal. But I mean, in terms of like... Yeah, I'm talking like raw keywords on the bottom of the thing. But yeah, you're right, monster is definitely a big one, because there's so many factions that get bonuses and that kind of stuff too. Painboy, yeah, thank you. You get stuff against monsters. So yeah, it's exactly what I'm talking about. I feel like Behemoth means less and less the more they keep making armies that can have Behemoths as battle line, but it still technically matters. But only just. Let's see here. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I'll be interested to see how that works out with Sons of Behemat. I'm sure, obviously, their Behemoths will be battle line because that's kind of the nature of the army. But it's interesting that is no longer a unique thing before it comes out. So I don't know. Rose Zambar says, I don't know how I got here, but I'm supporting. Oh, thank you so much. That's so kind of you. I don't know how I got here. I'm going to say YouTube algorithms or just serendipity. I like it. We've got Spezia, make monsters scary. Agreed. If I could be Age of Sigmar president for a day, let me tell you my platform. And I made this joke in the chat of the Warhammer Weekly guys, where I said my platform would be fewer armies, smaller hordes, and more monsters. I want cheap monsters. I want to see lots of those cool, big, stompy things on the table. This way, when someone spends $50 for a model, boom, it's a big old thing. It has a big presence on the table. I love monsters, love the big stuff. And I don't know, there's just so many armies that have access to cheap hordes with the horde bonus that it doesn't feel special anymore. You know, Skaven don't feel special because they're a horde army anymore. And I was like, no, I mean they should. That should be their jam. But I don't know. I kind of made this point a while back, so I don't want to just sit here and repeat myself. But it's been a couple weeks since I recorded, so I don't know. Where I just like, I wish the character of an army was defined more by the horde bonus thing rather than, with the exception of Slaves to Darkness, everybody gets horde bonuses. Some of them have lore that focuses on hordes. You know, it's like no. Like I think Skaven and Fire Slayers and potentially Flesh Eater Courts, because I mean the lore does certainly describe the ghouls as like pouring over everything. I love that stuff. Bone Splitters too. But then for some armies, it's like for the average army, I would say, they don't have any horde bonuses. I don't know. Hold up, there's an angry doggo outside. Sorry if you hear that. Boardroom Gamer says, keep the lore flowing. I am, yeah. The only reason it wasn't a lore video today is because I thought I was going to be home to do a live stream, and then last minute work called me in. But I do have several videos for next week. We're talking Iron Suns. Figured it's a good setting stage for talking about the gangs later on. I'm absolutely smitten by Necromunda. I will be the first one to say. Necromunda and Warcry are like my jams right now. Boardroom Gamer, again, thank you so much for chipping in. That means the world to me. Oh, did the stream go off for a second? Huh. I'm looking at the stream right now. It doesn't... Huh. Weird. Okay. Just like 5 seconds. I got it. Oh, I got it. I don't know what happened. Yeah, it doesn't show that I lost any frame rates. Let me know if there's any problems. Just go ahead and type it in the chat. Are you painting the shipping crates? No, this is the, if you look at the Dark Uprising set from Necromunda, they have these things. These are kind of like pillars, and you can stack them, and then you can put walkways on top of them. They snap into the top there. And so that's what I'm painting up. And I'm honestly not doing the hardest amount of work on these. They look great when they're done, but honestly, it is a very, very quick and dirty method just because terrain is one of those things that like I really appreciate good looking terrain when I'm playing with it, but it should never look so good that it like distracts from the models. Because that's a bummer. I don't know if you guys have ever seen like when gamers go to like the top tables at certain events, right? Yeah, because every event wants to have their top tables look like the best of the hobby, right? So you get these immaculate looking terrain pieces, and you know they like, you know, cultivated actual moss to make a grassy knoll battlefield. It's ridiculous stuff that people do for this hobby. And you know, someone's playing there with their 3-color minimum army, and you're like, oh, table looks better than anything on it. Okay, well that's all right. That'd be awesome for kill team. Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, all the stuff. I mean, I say all the stuff. The terrain and stuff like that. It works. Awesome for kill team. In fact, I honestly think it, as a single set of terrain, it does in fact work better for kill team because this will fill a kill team table size way more than a Necromunda table size. Yeah. But honestly, if you play one, you probably play the other. Like for realskis. If you're super into kill team and you're like, but I wish there was just a little bit more, you're gonna love Necromunda. And if you really love Necromunda, you could be like, I wish there was just a lighter, quicker way to play this. And it's like, kill team. They play off each other very well. Make me want to paint my Tyranids. Ooh, go get them. Go paint whatever you want. Last night I was hanging out with my buddy Ben at our local game night, which was almost canceled because everyone is either sick or traveling. And yeah, I was painting up my Chaos Space Marines. Shame on the 3 paint minimum player. Oh, no shame. No shame whatsoever. For some folks, it's just not what they don't enjoy the hobby side, and that's fine. I was more just commenting on like how your terrain, it should never be painted in a way that overshadows what's being played on it, is more what I was talking about. There's a guy here locally who was like, you know, I've been wanting to like, you know, reach out to you and ask if you wanted to play a game, but I figured you don't play against unpainted armies because you're always painting all the time and something you like. And I was like, dude, no. I'm just a dude. I mean, most of my games, honestly, are played against partially painted armies, I'll say. We'll be generous and say partially painted. Because they tried 4 different paint schemes, and so there's like 4 skeleton warriors with weird color schemes, and then nothing else. So it's like, oh. Let's see. Question from Spezia. Since they both need it, would a Seraphon versus Soul Blight box be dope? I mean, yeah. I mean, that would just be awesome. Period. I don't think that they are on the same level. Like, I think Soul Blight is a cool idea that could blossom into its own army, whereas Seraphon is like, no, this is like a full army that just like needs love. It is an existing faction that just needs some heart and some soul put into it. So we'll see. I'm kind of curious, does anyone know, rumor-wise, like who the author of the book is? Like, not author, but the team lead? Whether it's, oh my gosh, now I'm skipping on his name. My goodness. Sam Pearson. I'm curious. I gotta say, like, he's the one Games Workshop guy that I fanboy over. Like, I met Duncan in real life and I was just like, hey. And he's just like, hey. We're fine. You know, it's cool. Wish him the best. But Sam Pearson, I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. He's the greatest. Who else did I meet? I met Andy Smiley. Met a few others. Hey, I just found your channel last week. Binged through most of your AOS videos. I'm working on my first competition piece for local GW. Lord Ordinator with a big honkin' hammer. Awesome, man. That's so awesome. Well, I'm glad you found the channel. I'm glad it can be entertaining. Hopefully it's something to listen to while you paint your super awesome Lord Ordinator. I do love that model, the one with the big hammer. Oh my gosh, yeah. As much as I love the Grand Slam rules from the two-handed hammer guy, it's definitely the one big hammer. You're like, oh yeah, I'm not compensating for nothing, as he wields this like 4-foot long hammer. Question: have you used color changing paints before? When you say color changing, there's a few things that could mean. Do you mean like the legally distinct but almost described as color shift paints? I have used a brand called Turbo Dork. I believe they call theirs Turbo Shift paints so that they don't get sued. I've only bought 2 of them. Somebody got my joke. Thank you, Darren. I had a field day when that whole Green Stuff World thing went down. Oh man. That video on rerolling ones that it is put out with us all painting toothbrushes was an absolute blast. What you don't see is like the hour of content of us poking fun at what's going on. Yeah, the Green Stuff World was getting busy about. Yeah, I do. I use the ones that are available to me locally. Again, it's one of those things. It was kind of like an impulse buy rather than like I want to try these iridescent paints. Is like I said, Turbo Dork have their Turbo Shift paints, and what I gotta say is I really loved one of them. So I bought 2 actually. Let me pull out the ones I got. We can chat about it. I need to clear this brush anyway. Green Stuff World enters the chat. Hey man, become a sponsor. It was okay. 30-second note on the Green Stuff World thing with the Sword and Steel thing. It was dumb. It was clearly an accident, a misstep on their part, and they apologized. That's awesome. I have no problem with that. The thing that I laugh about more is like the people who came in and were acting like white knights to defend the honor of the Sword and Steel channel, where it's just like, y'all just need to chill out. They just made a mistake and they apologized. That's all there is to it. That's what I laugh at, not at Green Stuff World. I have no problem with them. And we'll continue to buy their products. So these are the 2 Turbo Dork paints that I bought. 3D glasses and dark net. So I don't know how well it shows up on camera. The 3D glasses one is definitely my favorite, and I use it on the wings of my Nurgle flies. And those don't show up on this camera because the second the light hits it, it goes like white and you can't see what it's doing. But it goes from this cool cobalt, almost blue on one end to sort of a purple on the other, and just shifts gradually. This is the one that looks most like, when you think iridescence, like oil slicks on the ground. The 3D glasses, I think, most clearly represents that. And so it is my favorite. The fact that it has, the way that I use this is I put Militarum green contrast paint on the wing, so it has a green base. And then when you add the 3D glasses to it, when it's on the cobalty side, it kind of blends into that green kind of well. And then it flips to the purple, and so it makes this sickly looking effect. So in terms of making like something that looks like a bug, I think 3D glasses is awesome. The other one I got just to try was Dark Net. And this one, it is also a Turbo Shift paints. Oh yeah, it does say color shift on the side. That's funny. This is probably an old batch. This one goes from more of a brown to sort of a metallic green, but a very dark green. And I like the way it looks. It doesn't have the same, like the change from one color to the other is not nearly as dramatic. And so because it's more subtle, frankly, I think it's less fun. Whereas this is like out there. Like 3D glasses is just like what you think of when you think of iridescent stuff. And I dig that. So yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts. If you have any follow-up questions on the Turbo Dork stuff, I can tell you more. What I will tell you is that they are incredibly thin paints. You will need to shake them a lot, like a lot. Even if you shake them for a while and put them on your palette, you can see like in real time them separate. So what I was doing is I was like, put it on the palette after I shake it, go to my brush, paint some stuff, and then have to go back here and stir it basically, and then reapply, and then stir it, reapply. So they really do separate that quickly. You're by default gonna have to put a lot of coats on. Like, it's pretty much pre-thinned, to be perfectly honest with you. So I think for my bug's wings, because I still wanted some of the Militarum green to show through, I put 2 coats on, I think. Whereas when I used them on my Stormcast, I think I put like 5 or 6 coats because I wanted the strong shift color. So let's see here. I got some questions in the chat. Lore question: what is the relationship between Nagash and Nurgle? Who's the better Lord of Undeath? Nagash, hands down. And the reason I say that is because Nagash wants to kill you and then control you for eternity because you're dead and you can't fight back. Whereas Nurgle, it's a cyclical death, meaning this person has to die so that 10,000 microbes and bacteria and spores may live, right? So it's this twisted version of he is the life giver. So if you're talking about who's the better Lord of Death, it's certainly Nagash, because he doesn't want all the other stuff to happen. He doesn't like the microbes and the gross things. Whereas Nurgle is like, no, I'll kill you, but it's okay, because for every one person I kill, I make like 10,000 new life forms. So hands down, gonna go with Nagash as the better Lord of Undeath. Now, a question that I posed in an earlier video that you can go find on YouTube if you want to, is who's the better god of life, Alariel or Nurgle? That's an interesting question. And basically what I came down to in that video was just asking, it just depends on how you define the value of life. If it's numerical, Nurgle. If it's quality and abundance in terms of the most strongest, most vibrant life, I'm going to say Alariel. Excuse me. Tried to turn away from the mic. Okay, where did my... Ah, here we go, Lead Belcher. Alariel only favors elves and trees, Nurgle's for all. I mean, whenever Alariel goes by something, it purifies it, so like rivers, entire like ecosystems. It's not just her, guys. Just like Nurgle, when he makes his garden, Alariel makes hers. I don't know, strongest life, wasn't she losing to Nurgle before the glorious Lord Sigmar saved her? Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, everyone got their teeth kicked in. I suppose. It depends on, I mean, she was on the ropes, I'll tell you that. Yeah, she was on the ropes. But I wasn't questioning strength, I was more talking about who embodies the idea of life more, and that more depends on how you define life. But she does have plot armor on her side, and she is the patron saint of Rosie the Riveter, so she's pretty much indestructible. I'm gonna go ahead and say that. Alariel's supposed to hate the Wanderers, right? Yeah, doesn't like them, doesn't trust them, basically. And thereby extension, the Sylvaneth don't care for them. it's tough. The way I gauge how cool a character is in a lot of these things, and this is kind of what I'm waiting for when it comes to Teclis, is I want cool scenes with them in narratives. So to me, my favorite thing, my favorite scene that involved Nurgle was actually from a Malign Portent's short story that they put out, where they were introducing the idea of the Lord of Afflictions, I think, before they actually showed the model. And it was a dude in a Nurgle forest that he had raised, where basically, if you don't know what the heads are on the back of a Lord of Plagues, Lord of Afflictions, Lord of Blights, that's what he is. He has like these 3 heads hanging from his backpack. And they introduce him, and he's like, you know, kind of milling about his orchard, as it were. And all these heads start falling, and basically, he's just having an inner monologue about, like, I should share this. Like, you know, this is like such a good gift. I need to get out there more. I need to share the blessings that I have in my life and bring this garden everywhere. And what you're realizing is, like, the thrice blessed heads are, like, basically they kill people, hang them from trees, and when the body rots enough that the head snaps off from the body and it falls to the ground, he picks it up like it's an apple and just carries it around with it like it's his orchard apple. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Being from I was raised until I was 16 on the East Coast, and we used to go to Pennsylvania, out to the apple orchards every fall and make our own cider and that kind of stuff. And I don't know why. I think there's just something about those memories that cross where I'm like, that is so cool. So I got that awesome thing from Nurgle, and then for Alariel, I've talked about it a lot, but in the Realmgate Wars, they gave her what I think is the coolest scene in any of these books, which is she charges a Nurgle fortress, and the sheer amount of magic of life that she has around her, like, makes a forest, like, explode around her, and, like, Sylvaneth are just, like, spontaneously coming into life as she's charging in. And so it's just like a barren wasteland, and then her making this beeline towards the fortress, and as she's, like, leaving this trail of a perfectly straight line jungle behind her, as, like, the raw power of life is just, like, spawning life ex nihilo. I was like, whoa, that's rad. Yeah, Pennsylvania. Yep. I don't have a myriad of good childhood memories, but that was certainly one of them. I don't remember the name of the orchard we used to go to. We went to the same one every single year, but I can't think of its name. Have you listened to any of these Shadespire audiobooks? No, I have not, but I do want to. Audiobooks are not really my favorite format. Teclis made me more curious as to what Tyrion will look like after his apotheosis. Yeah. I am curious. I'm curious as to what the rest of Teclis' faction is, and I'm very curious about their attitude towards the Deepkin. Right? Just because, and the reason I ask that is because if you don't know, like, the Deepkin were Teclis' first attempt at taking souls out of Slaanesh and remaking the old world High Elf Empire. And from the description of what he envisioned from the Deepkin, like, it is everything that we were just shown from the LVO release, right? Just, like, perfect reincarnations and reimaginings of the old world, just, you know, retrofitted to, like, fit better into the realms. You're like, oh, okay, so this is clearly what he wanted, but so what does that mean for the Deepkin, who were, like, the failed project? You know, I put a meme out there of, like, Teclis being a deadbeat dad, and it's just like, I mean, they don't like him. Deepkin are just like the awkward redhead stepchild of the elf family. Any theories on how Malekith or Malarian is going to play into Teclis' new army at all? No, I have no idea. Nope. Part of the things I'm excited for with this book is that that's all going to be new ground to tread, and that's exciting. In fact, we don't really know much at all about Malekith or Malarian. I guess we can start using the real name. I'm excited to learn. So do you think the new elves will be flawed somehow? Well, I don't know. Like, I don't think that, obviously I don't think we've seen them all, because they showed us 4 units and one of them is the centerpiece, right? I think there's certainly more to come. Otherwise it's not worth making a battle tome. So I think it depends on what we see from the other ones. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, Teclis had like a stash of, like, these are my experiments that didn't quite work, but I didn't hate them to the point of the Deepkin, so I was going to keep them and just kind of play around with them. So I don't know. Like, I think, if anything, those would be flawed. I assume the models that we've seen were kind of like the Daughters of Cain, where, like, the actual, like, witch elves and those things were normal elves that existed in the realms, but it was like the Knirai and the Melusai that were the ones that were taken from Slash. So I assume this is the same, where, like, the spearmen and the horse dudes that we've seen were the ones who were, like, just chilling in the realms. But whatever else he has up his sleeve is probably taken from Slanesh's gullet. So I'm not quite sure. Hoping for dragons, that'd be cool. If they had dragons, I'm in. I'm not gonna lie, because, like, I love the way the infantry and the cavalry look. I'm not sold on Teclis, but if there was a different, you know, big model that I could have and feel like I'm playing this army and I'm using all the cool stuff that wasn't Teclis, I'd be like, yeah, sold. Maybe he'll grow on me. I don't know. Maybe get to see it in person. There's some of those models too. There's some models that just don't photograph well, I think. For me, honestly, the Great Unclean one is one of those, where it's just like, if I look at the picture on GW's site, I don't want it. But the second I saw it in real life, I was like, oh, that's an amazing model. What are you talking about? But wouldn't the Dragon Princes, this is me and my limited knowledge of fantasy battles, wouldn't the Dragon Princes fit better in a Tyrian army and not so much a Teclis one? Because when I think like a Teclis army, I'm thinking like there's going to be units of 3 dudes that are wizards, kind of like evocators. I don't know. Get access to their own crazy spell lore. Let's see. Is there a, Mr. Kivoshi, is there a particular unit / faction character that was from the old world make an appearance in AOS? Oh, you're asking if there's a thing from the old world that I want to see in AOS? What would that be? You know, honestly, a lot of the stuff that I wanted, we already got. So I mean, yeah, Chaos Dwarves would be awesome. I'm trying to think of what else. I'm not. I didn't really play during the 8th edition, so I don't have like a, you know, a nostalgia thing of like, oh man, I missed this army and what they contributed. So I can't really answer that. But the reason I say I will agree with you in Chaos Dwarves is because a model range exists for them that there's not really any lore for, and that sucks. So I'm going to agree with you, Chaos Dwarves. Johnny, hey Doug, discovered 40k in 2nd edition. Always liked the lore, but was in the hobby mostly for converting and building. Stumbling upon your AOS lore videos has hooked me to your channel. Aw, thank you so much. Yeah, that's exciting to hear. Yeah, well, welcome. I do, I mean, I try to do these hobby hangouts every Friday during the afternoon to catch folks over in Europe, but the last couple weeks I've been super sick, had no voice, so I'm just kind of getting back into my rhythm with this. I want them to bring back snotling swarms. I'll be honest with you, I don't really like any swarm models. Like, even like Nurglings, like I have them because I got the Start Collecting box for demons just to have something to summon. But I don't like them. I don't know. Maybe it's just because all the swarm stuff had to fit on those little bases. I think we can all agree the biggest offender of how bad swarm models was the bat swarms. But, yeah. I think endless spells are a great way to represent swarms. Oh, that's a great point. Oh, yeah, actually, you know what, Blightskrig? You win the stream today. That's actually a great idea. I love the rat swarms for Skaven. I really like, what was the other one? There's another swarm thing. I can't think. Oh, the spiders for Gloomspite. That's a great point. Especially because, but I wish they did more with that. I remember when the endless spells were shown before the rules came out for the Gloomspite ones, and they had those spiders, and I really wanted the spiders to be more of an obstacle than they ended up being. But yeah, like I don't know. I almost wanted it to be like a summoned unit, you know what I mean, that kind of thing, but it had its own sort of rules. But they didn't really go that far. It's just like, it's just a predatory spell, and hey, some people don't mind spiders. That's pretty much what it was. There was a local guy selling the Start Collecting for the... Not Start Collecting. When they had the Allies boxes for a while for... Skirmish? When they had like a little starter set with some spider stuff. I can't think of what it was. There's a guy selling that locally, and I was like really tempted for a split second. I was like, no man, stay focused. You don't need any more projects, God knows. Tomorrow, I'm going to go learn how to play Infinity. Because I might be doing some content with Corvus Belli in the future. Should be exciting. I played it a little bit in the last edition. Love the setting for it, but it keeps... Oops, sorry. Keep bumping into that. Let's see. Blairski, Seraphon models popping up like Skaven all over eBay. Seraphon models popping up all over. You mean people are selling them? Like they want to sell them? This would be a great time to pick up Seraphon. My goodness. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be interesting. I've thought about investing in Seraphon as an army. I don't know. Robert says, "Yo, 2+ stuff. Hey, hey." Let's see. Gives me an idea to make a Nurgling swarm on a giant base like all those swing spells. There was some guy who took a whole bunch of Nurglings and like made them into a great unclean one type thing. Ears were burning about Infinity. Oh yeah, you want to hear about that? I mean, I don't have much to say. Basically, you know, I've been very open and honest about wanting to do content creation for wargaming for full time, and I love AOS, and it's always going to be the main focus of stuff. But I do need to broaden my horizons a little bit if I want to do this full time, just because of the size of the player base. And so that's why I've been kind of getting into some other stuff. I mean, partially because I just happen to like other games as well. So that's Necromunda. I love skirmish games, to be honest with you. I love when you can just really focus on the story of just a handful of models rather than big units of stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I reached out to several companies of just like, hey, you know, my name is Doug. This is the channel I have. I'm really passionate about talking about settings, and I can also do product reviews and painting and that kind of stuff. So a few companies have responded. Privateer Press said, yeah, let's chat, and then never got back to me. And then the guys at Corvus Belli who do Infinity were like, absolutely, we're signing you up. That's awesome. I was like, yay. So now I need to learn more. I bought the Infinity rulebook just to get some of the lore going, but I kind of need to like fully invest myself a little bit before I start making videos about it. But in the meantime, you will see stuff about Necromunda, and the thing about 40k is like there's just so much out there already. Necromunda is a great little way to slice off a little niche of that, but yeah. Robert, yeah, we spoke on the Facebook Messenger. Oh, that's you. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't can't keep track of all the stuff I talk about. I lose my mind. I'm sorry. I'm very scatterbrained in real life. Teach Disciple, Doug, has Marvel Crisis Protocol taken off in your area? I think I've seen 2 people playing it. Like on different occasions at different stores, which is a good indicator. I mean, it's the fact that they, you know, were in 2 very different places and had no obvious relation to one another. But no, I've taken off. You know, it's funny because the guys who make it, Atomic Mass Games, they're here. Like they're in the greater Seattle area. But I don't know. Yeah, they have some of the best names in game development there. So I'm small fish compared to the people who can reach out and be like, give me a copy of your game to review. Much bigger YouTubers get that kind of stuff. But honestly, that's the thing is like, I don't think I have a lot to offer that game, to be honest with you, because I don't like care for the premise of it. The thing is like I really like games where you can kind of create your own character and like tell a story. And for that, like, you know, that when you play Marvel Crisis Protocol, it's like boom, that's Iron Man. That is just Iron Man. Like, you know what I mean? There's not like a lookalike, a goon, an assistant. It is just straight up Robert Downey Jr. dropped from the skies and is fighting it. Like, there's no way to make, I don't know, your own backstory for him. Although I will say I love some of the rules for that game. Very reminiscent of other war games, like, you know, how they have like you get so many actions per turn, that kind of thing. Are very interesting. It seems like a fun game. It just the licensing of Marvel to me doesn't do anything for me. I'm not a big superhero guy. I think I tapped out of the movie series, like the MCU at Civil War, I think was the last one I saw. To me, best comic book game out there is an indie game called Super Mission Force. Interesting. I've never heard of it. It's from the 80s. Oh wait, are you a comic book guy from the 80s or or is the game from the 80s? That's interesting. It sounds like an 80s name. Team Tiger, awesome. Super Mission Force. Best game coming out this year will be the Soulbound AOS RPG. Yeah, I reached out to those guys too. I'm hoping to get a copy and be able to chat about it. I'm very excited for the world building opportunities that come with an RPG. Although I was actually chatting with one of the guys on their team, and he was like, "So do you put your videos in podcast form?" And I was like, "No, I do sometimes." The biggest thing is that sometimes audio quality doesn't retain, and I'm not going to put out a podcast episode that has terrible audio. We're just chatting about that. And I was asking about, like, oh, what do you like to listen to? He goes through all these different RPG podcasts, like where you listen to folks play the game kind of thing. And I was like, I've never actually played a role-playing game. And as is the case with most people, you can just like internally feel the record stop when you say that, and they're like, "What? You, the storyteller guy, never did what? You never did this thing that I love so much?" It's like, yeah, I just never have. Although it sounds like when I go to Adepticon, that's going to change. I think Vince Ventrella has made his personal mission to make sure that I don't leave Adepticon having not played a role-playing game. You make a great GM. I've heard that. I don't really know what a GM does or how to do that thing, but I could definitely see myself being the setter of a scene rather than a contributor to it in terms of being a player. I could definitely see that. Yeah, I don't know. I just know I wanted to give him a chance. Here's my tale of woe when it comes to role-playing games, and this, everyone I've told this story to who does play role-playing games immediately goes, I understand. So my wife was out of town for a bit, and there's a local store here. It's a huge store called Mox. They do Pathfinder days. Okay, I was like, Pathfinder, no idea how that relates to D&D, but I know it's a role-playing game. And I was like, I'll go to that. No, hopefully meet some friends and get some stuff. Maybe I can do some videos in the future about it. This is back when I was 1,000 subscribers, that kind of thing. I don't know what I was doing. So I go to this thing and walk in, and I'm immediately struck by the intense body odor. Okay. And I'm looking around the room, and I was like, I'm going to be super judgy here. I apologize. I was looking around the room, I was like, I don't want to sit at a table with any of these people. By that, I mean, you look around the room and it's just a lot of people who they have their little cliques, terrible BO that they're all okay with, and they do, how do I say this? They're invested in the fantasy game to a point where they look like they have trouble distinguishing it from reality. And by that, I mean saying and doing things that are just like, you're still in a public space, you can't say that kind of thing. So I was just like, I don't want to be here. And so then I went to the store counter, right? And I was just buying paints, for models. And I was like, I'm just going to go home and paint. And I was telling this story to the guy working. I was like, yeah, I came here for Pathfinder night, but it just doesn't seem like my crowd. And he kind of leaned over the counter and he's like, just so you know, this isn't everyone who plays role-playing games. These are the people who have no place else to go. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, the best role-playing games out there are played at people's homes. So you have to know people who already play it and then join a group of friends who are already playing those kinds of games. Because if you're playing here, it means like your mom kicked you out of the basement and you have nowhere else to go. And I was like, brutal, but I appreciate that. And so that kind of opened my mind a little bit. I was like, okay, so it's not like a role-playing game thing. It is clearly, this store has some personal hygiene issues, specifically the people who go there for Pathfinder Day. So anyway, that's my story of just like, That's when I learned that the best games don't happen at stores. They happen at people's homes, and I just don't happen to know anybody who... I know people who play D&D, and I know people who play very regularly, but what I don't know is people who play at the same intensity that I would. Like, there are some folks, like Vince Ventrella talks about, like, you show up to every single night. I'm like, that sounds stressful. Like, straight up. Because that sounds like a huge commitment, and I would not make that level of commitment for a game. And then you have folks who like are far more casual about it. So I don't know. So I'm just reading through your comments. GMs tell this story interacts with the player characters, but I understand not having done it much. Took me a couple of horrible campaigns. Got to find the right player group. Yeah, that's cool. Sigmund, my best experience with tabletop RPGs have always been with a private group. Yep. Cinderfall Gaming, gonna do some stuff. Gonna do some plays. Okay, that's awesome. Go check out his channel. I always feel awkward at Con Nuga, I don't know what that is, with everyone in costume. It always seems like you said blurring fantasy and reality, and yes, friends at Personal's house apartment. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Part of it, and this is a me thing. I know that I am overly sensitive when it comes to making people feel uncomfortable. Like, you know, people will say outlandish things or things that are seemingly sexist or racist, and like it makes me internally cringe, and I'm like, you can't say that. But like, oh no, but I'm just like super into character, and it's like, I don't care. Like, I don't care how into character you are. I don't care. This is a Renaissance festival, which I did go to and stuck out like a sore thumb because everybody was we'll say living the dream. I was like, I don't care. You don't get to talk to women like that. What they did in the time period. Yeah, well, people got kicked in the nuts back then too, and you're about to. That kind of stuff. Chattanooga, Tennessee's gaming convention. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I see that a lot, especially with like I went to PAX here in Seattle one time, and there was just a guy getting like super weird around a woman who was in cosplay, and you could tell she was like a professional. Like, she like, it was that level of tailoring, and I think she was there to advertise a game and that kind of stuff, and he got weird and kind of handsy and had to be like basically escorted out, and it's just like, there's just this thing where some people get so, like, they go to a convention, right, and they say, this is my safe place, right? This is where everyone's on the same page with me, and I can act however I want, and they get too comfortable, I think, and they act in an inappropriate way, and you're just like, no, dude, like, we're still, like, people, like, that's still a person. But I also know that not everyone has the same tolerance for that stuff. Like, I tend to be more sensitive to it, which I think is what makes me, I think it's my strength when it comes to community building, is that making sure everybody feels comfortable and safe, and like, you know, I do dinner parties well because I make people feel appreciated and interested and make connections and that kind of stuff. That kind of thing. Whereas like some folks, they just don't have that. They put all their points into other stuff besides charisma, and you realize, you know what's important for this game called life? Your charisma stat. No such thing as a safe place. Exactly. Safety is an illusion. Live in fear. And that's the thing, is I don't think it's a matter of safety. I think it's the mistaking the idea of a safe place with a place where there are no consequences. And I think that's the important distinction, right? Where, like, if I go, oh, like I went to Nova, right? I go to Nova and I can walk up to anyone and be like, hey, what you playing? And the vast overwhelming majority of people would have an answer for me. And the one time they didn't, they're like, oh, I'm just here with my husband. He plays blank, right? Okay. That's a safe place because, in a sense, I feel safe in that I can talk openly about my passion and my hobby, or I can't do that in a professional setting at my work. That, that kind of thing. And that's how I define that safety. But I still understand there are consequences if I'm a jerk. Deep. Yeah, sorry, I don't know how I got onto this. I didn't mean to take this to a deep, dark place. I was just more commenting on D&D players. Apologies. This is the most tedious part of this paint scheme, is painting all the little nuts and bolts. Yeah, I don't know. I've had that conversation with a few folks recently where I think what I'm really not a fan of is an overuse of escapism, right? Sometimes escapism is healthy, right? Where you're just like, life is too stressful. I can't fix my problems, but I can paint this stupid model, right? And that's how you escape to your own little world, and you process things in the background. You let your brain defrag. That's definitely what I did when I lost my job and I went into a deep depression about 2.5 years ago. It helps. But then there's that level where it's like you're uncomfortable in your own life, and so you spend as much time in your fantasy world as possible. And I see it a lot. Saw it a lot when I was at that Renaissance Festival in Austin, Texas. But you see it a lot in any kind of fandom. People they get lost in it, and you're just like, no, man, like, you gotta, like, real world's pretty cool too. We got platypuses. There's no platypuses in Tolkien. Just saying. There's like cool stuff here. We got memory foam. It's good to be able to sit back and remember these are plastic soldiers. Oh yeah. Not to change. Let's see. Not to change the subject. How are people's stories for the competition coming? Well, I basically so if you don't know, he's referring to the lore competition. I've been meaning to put out a reminder for that, and I'll do that first thing in the morning. Actually, I'll write out a reminder after this. But I think I'm up to about 40 entries, and I've had a few people this week say, "Oh, I'm sending it in." I have not reviewed a single one of them, just because I'm just going to sit down with a final tally and just hammer through them. Basically, the first round of reviews is going to be who followed my instructions, meaning I made it very clear, don't put your name inside the entry. So if your name's in there, auto-deleted, not even going to respond to it, not even going to worry about it. That kind of stuff, so I'm sure that I'll remove a few. Yeah, and then just go through the process of reading them all. So we will get there. I'm very excited about it, though. Some of them are very cool. Some people attached, and this doesn't, it won't give you any bonus points because I'm not going to be able to like show the pictures to the patrons who choose the final winner. But some people are like, hey, this is the story I've been making for the last 2 years on this army. here's a picture of the leader, and they actually like painted a model to represent the dude in their story. I'm like, oh, that's legit, you know. And that's I didn't actually read the story yet. I just opened the email to make sure it was addressed right. So I don't know how great that story is, but that kind of stuff is like, that's a really cool idea. I had never thought of doing that. Kind of want to do it with my Maggotkin now. Just like have an ongoing story. And then I've gotten those emails that I didn't even think were a possibility of just like, hey Doug, is there an advantage to doing XYZ? Like, will I get a nudge in my score if I write a story about a particular faction that you like or something like that? To which in my head, I'm just like, man, if you're trying to game the system on a lore competition, you are never in danger of winning it. Just like no, just write a story. That kind of stuff where you're just like, come on, man. Damn it. How do I win? Write good stuff. Be interesting, which is like the hardest thing to tell somebody. I see Lore Master Sotex in the chat. Getting excited about his Seraphon, which is appropriate. Let's see. Daniel, I'm almost positive there's going to be more units than what we showed, because that's, I mean, it's literally 4 models, or 4 units. I mean, not nearly enough for a faction, or if they're going to do something weird like making an ally thing, I don't know. But I have zero doubts that there's more coming. What I hope is that this is my ridiculous idea. You ready for it? The hope is that they only showed us half the army, and the other half is like outrageous light elves, flying angels, and there's a Tyrian model that is the exact same thing as the Teclis, but inverted. So he also has an awkward Sphinx Pegasus, but he's floating on the opposite wing, and so they can come together and look like the frickin' Wonder Twins. That's my conspiracy thought. Look like the Ringling Brothers circus display. Freaking out over my space lizards no longer being fragments of light. It is exciting. Let's see. There was a question I saw that I didn't. The chat moved around here 1 second. Blightskrieg, what level of professionalism do you expect for that contest? Because I'm not a writer, but I'd love to spit out some fanfic about an army. That's exactly what I'm expecting, is fanfic. I did not put the call out to Black Library novelists or anything like that. You know, you can do it any way you want. You can just write out a bunch of facts for a compelling concept, or you can write an actual short story. You can do whatever you like. You know, this whole, we'll call it operation that I'm doing at 2+ Tough is totally DIY. Professionalism need not apply. I can assure you that much. Yeah. Although I do, whenever I email a company about the potential of advertising with me, I do put on my professional Mr. Businessman voice in my emails. Hello, dearest sir or madam. I hope this finds you well. I'm a young upstart entrepreneur with a focus on content creation for the wargaming industry. It's kind of like when you call your bank and you sound like more of an adult, just intrinsically. You're just like, hello, I'd like to talk about my account. And you're just like, I've never spoken like that in my entire life. Let's see, currently going through the stages of grief painting this competition piece above my normal levels of 3 foot gorgeous. I'm noticing a bunch of random details. Yeah, the second you make the conscious decision to go to the next level, you notice everything you've ever done wrong. Just like on your model as a person, regret everything. Hashtag big man voice, exactly. Hello, I'm Mr. Businessman. I'm wearing a suit, you see. Cold Shoulder, I know I missed most of the hangout. Y'all talk about the fact that Seraphon are coming out. Yes, we did. Yeah, that was the first thing. I started off talking about the news and that kind of stuff. We didn't really much to talk about. They didn't go into much detail. I'm very excited for a rewrite of the, not rewrite, but an expansion, a grand expansion of the Seraphon lore. And I think we've only seen about a half or a third of the elf stuff. It's just my random thoughts. What else? Sons of Behemat. I want it to be an army, and I want it to be awesome. I want it to be the Knight Titan version of AOS. I'm trying to recap everything we said. The fact that Seraphon are getting sub-factions is awesome. Very excited for that. I can't think of anything else. It pretty much sums up most of what we talked about. Cold Shoulder says Seraphon are turning into the Coalesced. No idea what that means. My guess that we talked about earlier was that that means instead of being this like based in light, they're getting more physical. Like over time, they kind of become more entrenched in reality. So that's my thought. Sigmund just responded. Yep, that's kind of what we were chatting about earlier. And so that way you could have a reasonable theme for your army that has them as demons of light. Literally starbursts made manifest. Or you could have them be like legit spawning pool traditional lizard people. I like the idea of them being factory-made robots of light. Yeah, I mean, the problem is, I think the problem when the Seraphon book first came out, Age of Sigmar was so roughly launched that those kinds of crazy abstract things, it was too much too fast, right? I mean, because it was the third book out behind Stormcast and Bloodbound, and in between those two, like the Bloodbound were very easy to understand, but the Stormcast even were just like, what the heck are you guys talking about? Because that's when you got into like, here's when Sigmar was flying through the sky and he met his favorite friend Dragon, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? This is us from 5 years ago, and I think things have definitely improved, but that book, because it was so out there and so abstract, it just didn't age well when everything else was getting cleaned up a bit more and kind of, condensed and I think just frankly better written. So, yeah, I don't know. And then they had, I remember that was the most frustrating lore week I ever did was the Seraphon one. Because I released a video about them, right? Just talking about the lore that was in the book, Demons of Light and that kind of stuff. And then I think it was the second day of that lore week. So videos were already being made and already out there, but they dropped a Malign Portent short story that mentioned a spawning pool. And people just like every flippin' comment that week. Hey Doug, do you even read the lore, man? There's this whole story about the spawning pool. All this is wrong. They totally retconned everything. I'm like, okay. So Seraphon book's been out for like 2 years at that point. Longer than that, I think. Almost 3 years. It's like, and of course the one time I decided to do the lore week about Seraphon, they dropped that and it just like all goes to crap. And I was just like really frustrated. And then of course, I jokingly in my head, I'm like, what do you mean did I read the lore? I am Age of Sigmar lore. Think you got this all down, Pat? Why don't you start a YouTube channel? Why don't you do that? Yeah, no, in my mind, that's just me. My fake outrage. Lore is life. You can't even handle a lore channel. Honestly, at the speed at which GW's been putting out battle tomes, I can't handle a lore channel, to be honest with you. It's been very overwhelming. I'm very much looking forward to why don't you guys just focus on 40k and Titanicus for a while? Let's go hang out. What are those guys up to? Let's see. I mean, they released the story the week after you stopped doing your reading. Culture. I don't think I understood that one. Oh my god, I'm so close to being done with this terrain. I can taste it. Are there any named skinks or Saurus characters for the Seraphon? Isn't there a named skink guy, or am I thinking of the Starmaster or whatever he is? No, that's a Slan Starmaster. I don't know what I'm thinking of. I feel like Lore Master Sotek would know if there is a named skink. Not at the moment. Okay. Do you think they'll step off the gas pedal a bit this year? I think yes and no. This is my tinfoil hat wild speculation. I think that Games Workshop has made a monumental effort to change their business model and transition it flawlessly from a few heavy big releases to being an update company. And by that I mean you establish your games, you get everyone caught up on the same page, and then you can take your time and every once in a while just update one thing here or there and then add an army here or there. So what I mean by that is now with AOS, AOS is now complete with Seraphon coming out, meaning every single book is now on 2nd edition. The model range has been trimmed to our understanding. So if nothing else, like, this is what we got for now. Now they can, of course, in the future expand on things. They can, you know, take Dark Oath and make it its own thing separate from Slaves of Darkness. You can do whatever you want in the future, but for right now, everything is at least accounted for. And from here, they can just focus on updates, you know, and releasing a model here or there. Kind of like what they're doing with Skitarii at the moment, of just like, hey, here's 2 kits. That's all they had to do. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't need a new book. They didn't need that. I don't know what that faction's like, but they didn't release a new book at least. So I think that would be a great way to do it. So you can say at every convention, here's a unit for this game, here's a unit for this game. Oh, here's a new Underworlds warband, that kind of stuff. My understanding, just from like the high level look of things, that's kind of what I think what they're doing, is they've gotten everything on the same page as far as editions go for both 40k and AOS. And now they can move into this cool phase of just saying, like, you know, we can reasonably manage and balance what we have. And, you know, and balance is something that takes time, you know, with, of course, with the different erratas and updates and that kind of stuff. And just take their time in doing that, and then splash releasing, hey, here's some, I don't know, Eldar kits, here's some new Space Marine things, and just kind of splash stuff out. And that's kind of, honestly, I kind of like that. Because that way, no matter what you're playing, you don't feel like, okay, we got our release, so I guess we just have to wait another, you know, 9-10 months before we get anything else. But no, I mean, if you play Underworlds, you know, you got your Beastgrave a while back, and now you got this, that's awesome. You got your little Goblin Wolf Riders. So anyway, that is my thoughts. I haven't been watching the chat. I know it moved on to talking about skinks again, so that's awesome. Yeah, I think their business model at this point is going to be moving away from the big singular releases and into more update stuff, which I'm cool with. Kevin, I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. I don't recognize either of those names. Hope we see versions of the Source Lord on Carno from the old... Oh, it used to be a name kit, you mean? And they made it a generic one? I knew nothing about Seraphon from the old world. Straight up. I don't know why, like... This is going to sound like a really dumb thing. Sometimes I just think dumb thoughts. I'm still human. For some reason, the Lizardmen... I saw them played... we had a Lizardmen player in Fantasy Battles when I was playing for those couple months before AOS dropped. And Lizardmen as an army never looked interesting to me, but Seraphon does. And I don't know if... I think it has more to do with the way Fantasy Battles... You know, you had to have all your battle lines, and it kind of... a lot of it was like, oh, you should have a lot of troops, and... I don't think big models were necessarily like the best idea in the old game, because... 2 cannons can kill anything kind of deal. So I think that's it. But I remember seeing the old school Lizardman army, like, that doesn't look very interesting. And then I see Seraphon armies from their battle tome. Even the old battle tome, like the one we have now, before the new one comes out, where it's like, these look amazing. And I don't know what the difference is. It's literally the same models. But yeah, I think it's maybe because of the core and the heroes and that kind of stuff to make them... Maybe it's just like the collection the guy had before. Also, everything looks better on round bases. I'm just going to throw that out there. At me. Oh, Brad literally just said that. I was looking away from my thing. I said, everything looks better on round bases. And I look over and Brad said, round bases. I was like, yes. Vindication. Okay. Oh man, speaking of, whenever I think of square bases, I think of the first time we saw the leaked image. It was from one of the original AOS pieces of artwork, and it was, what is it? The plague sensor thing, the thing from Clan Pestilence, the big thing, and it was on a round base, and people like flipped the F out because they were keeping information about AOS so close to their chest. Is the Malign Portents story a book or collection of short stories? If you Google Malign Portents stories, you'll be taken to a page. They made a specific web page for a narrative event or series they called Malign Portents, and it was a game expansion that really was kind of lackluster, but if you go to that website that I just mentioned, where you Google that kind of stuff, you'll find it is also a collection of short stories they put out in support of it. And honestly, the short stories and the art on those pages was the best part of that thing, and it was really, really cool, actually. Yeah, and it was cool because like they told us lore snippets, right, and these cool little scenes and vignettes almost from factions that weren't released yet. And so you're like seeing what Deepkin do, for example, before you understand what the Deepkin are. And you're like, this is just rad and savage. And you're like, what? So it was a really cool like premise, you know what I mean? And that's ultimately what it was. And then the actual book came out for it, Malign Portents, the expansion. And I liked it, but getting anyone to actually play it was a chore. Because it was just not very well received. But we did a game of it. I don't remember if we recorded it, but we definitely played games with the Rolling Ones guys. And always had fun. 100% of the time. Because it basically added a new mechanic where like some of your models in your army became like prophets kind of thing, and they could like see the omens that were going on in the sky and be able to respond to them. And basically it gave everybody an extra allegiance ability, and it was pretty rad. And at the time, far fewer factions had battle tomes. So even for the armies that didn't have anything, it was like, oh, this is at least something I can interact with and have fun with. Those Malign Portents dice are blessed. 6s are the way. Oh yeah, I got 2 sets because there's a store closing. They had like a buy one get one on GW dice, and I think the symbol on them looks incredible. And they've been my favorite dice. Plus, they broke the mold, and it's a skull on one side and the Malign Portent symbol for the 6, and everything is clearly legible. And it's like yes, 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 yes. Legible GW dice are the rarest and most amazing of all dice. Let's see. Well, friends, I've been going for about 2.5 hours. If you want to see us chatting randomly about the news coverage, we didn't break any new ground because not a lot of details were given, but you can go ahead and go back in time when this finishes uploading in probably about 20 minutes or so, and check that out. In the meantime, I'm just going to be eating dinner with my wife, and I will catch you guys. Let's see. I might catch you tomorrow. I might do some more hobby tomorrow night. Now that I have my voice back, I kind of want to get back into the rhythm. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining me, and I will catch you all next time. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and happy wargaming, friends. I'll see you all soon.